When cocky fighters go wrong with showboating. There's no greater pleasure in the world of entertainment than watching a cocky fighter fall. So today we're going to look at 10 cocky fighters that went a little too far with showboating. Number 10. JERMELL CHARLO versus Harrison. In their match for the super welterweight title, JERMELL CHARLO was at full volume, attempting to deliver Harrison a lesson he'd never forget after Harrison had trash-talked him one too many times. Harrison attempted to take down CHARLO, but he fought back. But as Harrison attempted to flee, he was hit hard and knocked out. After a short time, they confront each other again, but this time CHARLO knocks Harrison out once more. He gets beaten up in the same manner again in the third session, and it was his last chance. The match would be over if he was knocked out again, but he wasn't going to stop saying nasty things to CHARLO until he was knocked out for a fourth time. Number 9. BRAULIO Rodriguez versus Ryan Garcia. As with most MMA fights, the trash talk in this one was always there. In fact, during the weigh-ins, Rodriguez even claimed that he was better than Garcia in every aspect, and pushed Garcia. When the bell actually rang, a swift encounter between the two was followed by Rodriguez concentrating more on showboating than on actually putting up a fight. This was perhaps his way of making Garcia think that he would lose. But Garcia was not buying it. A simple left hook left Rodriguez dazed and had him fall to the ground. Stubborn, Rodriguez got up to do a mocking dance and made weird faces to entice Garcia. However, Garcia kept fighting and almost knocked Rodriguez straight out of the ring. Number 8. Muay Thai versus boxing. Now this fight is particularly interesting because this is actually a crossover bout between Muay Thai and boxing. Although this doesn't necessarily help us understand which fighting style is superior, it does teach us one thing for sure. Being cocky is never going to help you fight better. In this bout, the Muay Thai fighter starts off by repeatedly making weird gestures to ridicule his opponent. Time and time again, he's repeatedly hit, and you can tell he's visibly fazed. However, he doesn't give up on his cockiness. In fact, that's perhaps what he's focused on even more than his actual fight. And so when he gets beat up time and time again, his only response is some twisted form of showboating. In one incident, he even kicks his opponent disrespectfully as the referee breaks the two off. But as soon as contact is reinitiated, he's immediately knocked out by his opponent, who seemed to take him out with a single swift blow, making him drop straight to the floor. Number 7. Don't be a racist. Racism is never cool, and it can happen against just about anyone. This boxer thought he could get away with it, but the most beautiful form of karma took over when he faced his opponent inside the ring. Before the fight, there was the usual trash talk, but it peaked when, during the weigh-ins, the man said, "I would never let a white boy beat me." Not once, not twice, but 3 times. When the actual fight took place, though, he did get beat. A series of brutal beatings from the very same white boy probably taught this guy a few things about avoiding racism. Next time, he'll probably focus more on his training than the color of his opponent's skin. Number 6. Paula Costa versus Israel Adesanya. Costa had a reputation for being a knockout fighter up to this moment. He was tearing through the division at the time, going unbeaten in 13 fights, 11 of them by knockout. Costa made quite a lot of verbal attacks in the weeks prior to the fight. He also carried a white belt to taunt Adesanya during the stare-down. Costa taunts Adesanya by sticking his tongue out during the bout. He even instructed Adesanya to step in by putting his hands against his back. From smirks to Costa asking him to kick harder, the showboating persisted. As the agony mounts in round 2, the grin disappears. Costa mockingly pulls a face as Adesanya delivers a great kick. He increases the tempo and starts throwing massive combinations at Costa. He then hits Costa with a clean blow, knocking him out, and ends the fight with straight punches and lightning kicks. Number 5. Terence Mitchell versus Kai Kara-France. Terence Mitchell was a tenacious bully who wouldn't quit flaunting his muscles even during a weigh-in before his bout with Kai Kara-France. France remained composed throughout, waiting for the battle to put this warrior in his place. He unleashed a powerful right hook on Terence's face and sent him tumbling to the floor like a slab of wood barely half a minute into the first round. He'll be more cautious the next time he chooses a bully companion. That right hook was an immediate follow-up to a few stiff hits that probably had Mitchell wondering whether he'd made a mistake. Irrespective, Mitchell learned a lesson he'll not forget anytime soon. Number 4. Bethe Correia versus Ronda Rousey. There are limits, even with trash talk, that one must always be respectful of. Even more so, you should be careful if you cross those limits against the best in the game. Apparently no one told Bethe Correia that, and she suffered some dire consequences for it. Correia fought Ronda Rousey for the women's bantamweight title at UFC 190. According to reports, Correia made a remark about Rousey possibly killing herself if she lost the fight. Rousey was moved by this since her father died in the same manner when she was little. Correia denied knowing anything about it before making those remarks and afterwards apologized. Correia was well aware of this, according to Dana White, who claimed that she was toying with Rousey and trying to get in her head. Correia even told Rousey not to cry during their stare-down before the bout. The bout only lasted 34 seconds, with Rousey delivering bomb after bomb until knocking her out with a right punch to the temple. After only 5 wins in her 11 fights in the UFC, she announced that she'd retire after completing the remaining fights on her contract. Number 3. James Gallagher versus Ricky Bandejas. It seems like there's more than just one cocky Irish fighter out there. At number 7, we have James Gallagher following Conor McGregor's showboating tradition against Ricky Bandejas. Even during the weigh-ins, Gallagher tried to get on Bandejas' nerves by constantly ganging up on him and flexing his muscles. Bandejas swiftly knocked Gallagher out at one point, and that's probably when Gallagher realized how bad he'd messed up. You can clearly see Gallagher in clear shock and scare as he falls to the ground. Afterwards, Bandejas took full advantage of the situation to unleash a barrage of punches and elbows into Gallagher, putting him right in his place. Number 2. Learn your lesson already. Some people just don't learn a lesson the first time. So next up, we have the recurrent loser, Bethe Correia against Holly Holm. Holm is a highly skilled striker who's recognized for her stunning kicks and punching combos. She's the first person in history to hold both a world boxing title and a UFC title. She's also popular because of her modest demeanor. Correia is a previously championship challenger who can also play as a striker. Both combatants are extremely careful during the battle. In the third round, Correia summons Holm to the ring to attack her. She summons Holm once again, who reacts with her legendary head kick and strike to the skull to knock her out. Number 1. Out at strike 1. It's difficult to understand what it's like to lose when all you've ever done is win. Felipe Silva was unbeaten prior to his UFC lightweight fight against Mairbek Taisumov. Thus, he couldn't imagine losing. Silva opted to insult his rival at the pre-fight weigh-in, looking right into Taisumov's eyes and nodding his head multiple times with a cheeky smirk on his face to prove that he's a talented fighter. Taisumov retaliated by lifting his index finger, which represented the number of blows he'd get later. Silva was unconcerned as to what his rival had to say since he knew he'd win. The battle began with much fanfare and high expectations, but Taisumov needed to land just one blow on Silva to put him out and earn a clear victory. Which one was your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Also, leave a like and check out some of these amazing videos too.